Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, it is now day, I think it's 24, right? Yeah, it's got to be day 24. Let's see, a week there, 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. This is the 24th day without football, okay? We're going strong. We still got a few more months to go. All right. But I mean, free agency's coming up the next couple of weeks. April has the draft. May, June are normally the dead periods there. I think they have like the rookie mini camps or whatever they're called right there. July is when training camp starts up at the end of July. Then we got August preseason, and then September when the season starts again. So believe it or not, I mean, football really doesn't go away. All right. And it feels like I haven't done this show in a while. It's only been since last Thursday. It really, truly feels like it's been like maybe a few weeks since I've done this show. But nonetheless, like I said, it was just last Thursday when we were here. All right. And a lot has happened. Okay. Marcus Peters now plays for the Rams. All right. That's the thing. Marcus Peters does not play for the Kansas City Chiefs anymore. All right. So, yeah, you know what? That reminds me. Let me tell you how the show's going to go today. All right. So, we're going to talk about the whole Marcus Peters trade in the first segment. Second segment, I know. We've been beating the Kirk Cousins drum quite a bit, but we're going to continue to beat it. All right. We're going to talk about the possibility of the Vikings ending up with him. Going to talk about Blake Bortles getting an extension from the Jaguars in the third segment. Fourth segment, up for grabs. We'll talk about anything else going on for football. All right. Anything that crosses my mind. I mean, I think we talked about Michael Vick on Thursday. Maybe on this fourth segment, we'll talk about someone else. All right. So we'll be doing that. I'm probably going to fit Rob Gronkowski into one of these segments in the first three segments, probably maybe with Kirk and the Vikings, maybe with Blake and the Jags, or maybe even in this one. We'll see how it all plays out. But like I said, that's how the show's going to go. Like I said, fourth segment, as we always do, going to be talking about whatever comes to mind as far as football goes, all right? Got to be creative. It's the off season, all right? Maybe we'll do some fun. But either way, let's get into it. All right, so like I said, Marcus Peters is now an LA Ram, okay? And that's crazy to me. Okay. I guess that the Chiefs were shopping around trying to get him out. All right. Trying to see who would take him. And I guess this all has to do with the fact that he's not the best locker room presence. All right. Doesn't bring that great of a presence in the locker room. And I guess that's fine if you want to talk about that. But I saw people talking about too how he's got off-the-field problems, or he could have off-the-field problems. Like, that's not Boogie Cousins, the guy, okay? I remember Clay Travis sent out a tweet like 6-some years ago about how Boogie Cousins, before he made the NBA, like before Boogie was in the NBA, I think it was with Kentucky, would end up in jail or something like that. Let's not do that. Let's not put the cuffs on someone before it even starts, all right? If you want to say Marcus Peters could be a bad locker room presence or whatever, that's fine. But I saw people saying that he could have possible off-the-field problems and stuff like that. That's not the case whatsoever, all right? Marcus Peters, at least from what I just off the top of my head, has never really been in trouble off the field, all right? Is he a little bit loud? Sure, all right? Does he care what other people think about him? No. Is that fine? Sure. All right, locker room presence, a little bit of distraction. If that's what Chiefs are saying, then I guess that's probably true. But either way, I mean, let's not start a whole narrative and stuff like that, all right? So let's get into the trade itself. So I was kind of surprised that the Chiefs traded away Marcus Peters, right? Top 6 corner in the league. Let's see, you got A.J. Bouye, you got Ramsey. I'm not off the top of my head either. It's not in any order or anything like that. You got Marshawn Lattimore, Xavier Rhodes. Throw Marcus Peters in right there, top 5. Again, not in any order, okay? So you got those corners, and I mean, people were wondering too, like, what did the Chiefs get from Marcus Peters, okay? Because the guy is a top 5 cornerback. That was the biggest question. And the trade doesn't go through, I think, till like March 14th or something like that, till like the new league year begins, I think. And yeah, that was the biggest question right there. What did the Chiefs get for a top cornerback in the league? And it turns out that I think they got a 4th-round pick this year and a 2nd-round pick in 2019. That does not seem like a good return for the number 1 cornerback on your team. All right. Now Kendall Fuller is the number 1 cornerback on that team. And I thought that they were going to be heading into the season with Peters and Fuller on both sides of the boundary, whatever you want to call it. All right. And now you got Fuller. Now you have a need at cornerback. All right. You also got to figure out pretty much what's going on at the linebacker position. You got to get younger on defense. All right. I get the whole like locker room distraction thing, but like honestly, how much of a distraction was he? All right, I just think he was, and I saw too that a report that came out that the Chiefs traded him. One of the reasons why the Chiefs traded him is because of little protests. And I'm not gonna call them national anthem protests because that's not what they were, but they didn't like that or whatever. And it's just like I said, it just reminds me of the Deshaun Jackson thing when Chip Kelly traded away Deshaun Jackson or cut him. When they cut him. Did they trade him or cut him? I can't remember exactly, but I remember when that happened, you had reports coming out that the Eagles didn't like how he had gang affiliations and stuff like that. And Deshaun Jackson's never even gotten in trouble in the league ever, never once gotten caught up with that as far as him being in the league. All right, and they were just trying to create this whole narrative, trying to justify the fact that that's why they got rid of Deshaun Jackson. And this is exactly what brings me to it right here. I think this is exactly like that. All right, not exactly, I guess, but it's similar, all right, with the whole, they didn't like how he was doing the protests, and they didn't like how he was a bad locker room presence, stuff like that. If you just wanted to trade the guy, then just trade him and be quiet about it, all right? You don't need to be sending out these false narratives about people, all right? And that's what teams do, too. When teams trade people, in order to justify it, they'll usually put something out about how they were a distraction or they did something wrong or anything or stuff like that, all right? That always happens whenever a team trades a good player. All right, and I noticed that too. Like as of right now, I just literally noticed that whenever a team trades away a solid player on their team, there's always some excuse as to why they got traded. It's always something bad about it too. So, I mean, the Chiefs did it. It's whatever. They got a 2nd-round pick for next year, a 4th-round pick for this year, and now the Rams have one of the best secondaries in the league. Okay, they have one of the best defenses in the league. That defense is going to be causing all kinds of turnovers. This is a move right here that could help you win a Super Bowl. All right. The Rams lost in the wild card round this year. That was pretty predictable there. All right, a team that hasn't ever been there. You got like pretty much. I feel like the entirety of the team just hasn't been in the playoffs. I might be missing a couple of people, but like some random people that have been there. So, yeah, the Rams just didn't have any playoff experience. Marcus Peters is playing the playoffs before. This team's getting older, going to develop a little bit more, know what it's like to play in the playoffs now. You got a guy like Marcus Peters, like I said, it creates a bunch of turnovers, all right? This is huge for the LA Rams defense, all right? And I'm sure Marcus Peters is going to be happy going to LA because he's a California kid. I think he's from Oakland, like Marshawn Lynch, too. I can't remember exactly, but either way, I like the move for the Rams, all right? It was I don't know, would you consider this a low risk, high reward type move? That's what I would consider it. All right, because like I said, Marcus Peters has never been in any type of trouble, but they're going to feed that narrative as much as they want. All right, so I like the move for the Rams. Like I said, I think it makes them even more of a Super Bowl contender for the next year because you got a bunch of teams that are going to be good, and especially, too, with the NFC West, with the quarterbacks they got. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Russell Wilson. I mean, the Cardinals do have a possibility at landing Kirk Cousins. You could have 3 solid quarterbacks in that division next year, and you need to build up that secondary. Honestly, I think this is what that move is, all right? This move right here, trading for Marcus Peters, is to try and build up that secondary to try and beat up these quarterbacks, all right? Because like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out there, do what 5-6-0 with the 49ers this year. Russell Wilson is a top 7 quarterback in this league. Let's see. Brady, Stafford, Rodgers. Am I going to have to look at it again? Usually we always look at the quarterbacks too and stuff like that. Let's see. You got Brady, Rodgers. Did you say Big Ben is better than him? Maybe. No. Oh, I'm not going to go through it. Either way, yeah, Russell Wilson, top 5, top 7 quarterback, whatever. All right. So, yeah, you build up the secondary. It's going to make your team even better, and it's going to help you against those quarterbacks. All right. So I like the move there. And like I said, I mean, you got Goff, who's going to be even better after his second year. You got Todd Gurley coming off of MVP type of year. Didn't win it, but was in the running. You got Robert Woods, who had a great year with the Rams at home. Cooper Kupp was a solid draft pick last year. All right, offensive line could get a little bit better. But as far as the defense goes, you're already set. This team just needs to get older. That's it. They just need to be in the moment more, right? They just need to be in the playoffs more in order to get past those teams, like teams like the Falcons, right? On paper, would you say that the Falcons were better than the Rams this season? No, I wouldn't say that, all right? Because the Rams, as far as stats and everything else goes, were the better team, all right? But there's one thing that mattered in that wild card game, and that's the fact that the Falcons had experience. So I like this. Like I said, I'm just going back to how much I like this move, all right? I mean, that's all the Rams need, just experience. They've been there, done that. They know what it takes now. You got Marcus Peters, all right? They're going to be a good team. That's going to be a true Super Bowl contender right there, all right? Let's see. Looking through the NFC right now, you got the Eagles, who I would say are better than them since they're the Super Bowl champs. I'll take the Rams over anyone else in that division. In the NFC North, I'll take the Rams over everyone but the Packers, I guess, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. In the NFC South, I'll take the Rams over all those teams too. So the Rams are probably arguably a top 3 team in the NFC, arguably a top 2 team in the NFC, all right? They're going to be very good, and I think they're actually going to do something this season instead of getting bounced in the wild card round. So very excited for what they got going on there. And as far as the Chiefs go, I mean, I'm kind of confused, okay? Now you need another cornerback. Your defense is already getting old as it was. So, I mean, now your defense got worse. Your defense got completely worse, all right? It's not like it's a crazy type of loss. I don't know. It's a big loss, all right? Marcus Peters was the number 1 cornerback on that team, so it is a big loss there. All right, you still got to get younger. And as far as the offense goes, you got to figure out what you got in Patrick Mahomes. There's no telling that he's going to be a top quarterback or anything like that, or even better than Alex Smith was when he was there, all right? So the Chiefs, I mean, they're taking a bit of a risk here getting rid of Marcus Peters. The Chiefs might very well be the worst team in that division, okay? Let's say that Kirk Cousins goes to the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs are easily the worst team in that division. You got an unproven cornerback. You got a defense who looked kind of shaky last year and looks even more shaky now since you got rid of the best player on that defense, all right? And, I mean, those weapons that you got on offense are only as good as the quarterback is going to be, all right? Without a quarterback, I mean, I'm sure if Patrick Mahomes isn't playing well, then I'm sure Travis Kelce's numbers are going to go down, so will Tyreek Hill's, okay? Kareem Hunt probably be good, but nonetheless, I mean, you got Andy Reid, who sometimes like to take the ball out of his hands for no apparent reason, all right? The AFC West, you get the Chargers, who as of right now are the best team in that division. The Raiders kind of scare me a bit just because of the fact that they have no defense whatsoever, but I think John Gruden is going to be able to fix that up this season, all right? Especially do work with Derek Carr, because, I mean, Derek Carr this season, I always say it, I think that him playing poorly this season really wasn't on him. It was just the fact that he came back way too soon from a fractured back. And the Denver Broncos are a quarterback away from being a team that could compete for the playoffs. So, I mean, like, as of right now, the Chiefs got to be the worst team in that division. All right? I'll still take the Broncos with a rookie quarterback over the Chiefs right now. So I really hope that they have a plan as to what they're doing. If not, this division or this front office kind of messed up this team, and it's going to be a down year for the Chiefs. But we're going to have to wait and see again. It's all still early. We got free agency and we got the draft going on. And that's one thing, too. I don't even think the Chiefs have a first-round pick this year. If you're trading away Marcus Peters, you at least have to get a first-round pick. At least. All right? You can't go without a first-round pick and then trade away your best player. So we'll see what happens, but that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. Third segment, we'll be talking about Blake Bortles getting an extension. Like I said, we'll probably fit Rob Gronkowski into one of those 2 segments. And then for the 4th segment, we'll talk about anything else going on in the world of football. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. In that first segment, we basically spent the entire segment talking about the Marcus Peters trade, all right? Don't really know what the Chiefs are doing here. I mean, it looked like they're just trying to get rid of a bad person in the locker room. I mean, that's just the narrative that's being put out there. And the Rams obviously are trying to make win now moves. So I like what they did. Don't like what the Chiefs did. The Chiefs didn't even get a good enough return back for Marcus Peters. Should have got at least a first-round pick, and they didn't. They still don't have a first-round pick in this year's draft, I believe. So, I mean, I don't know what they got going on, but either way, doesn't really make too much sense to me other than, I mean, it doesn't make football sense. It just makes off-the-field type sense, I guess, as far as the locker room goes. But, I mean, I guess this is why I don't have GM job. I mean, it could do with the fact that I'm still too young. But either way, I'd rather be doing this than doing that because I've never been good with math, and I don't being a GM, you got to deal with numbers and stuff like that. So here we are. For this segment, though, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings, and we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins yet again, all right? I know we've been beating the drum on the Kirk Cousins little thing a little bit, but, I mean, he's a story. He's going to be a story till he gets signed somewhere else, which I got to figure out when free agency actually starts. But like I said, he's going to be a free agent. Everyone else is talking about him, so that means I got to talk about him. All right, and this isn't really more. This doesn't really have to do with the fact where he's going to sign. It's just a little hunch, okay? As far as where I think he's going to end up, and there's reasons as to why I think he might end up in Minnesota. So let's get into the segment right now. All right, actually, let me see real quick. When does free agency start? Let's see. I think it starts March. Does it start March 14th when the league year starts? Let's see if we could find that out. Free agency starts March 14th. All right, at 1 o'clock. So that's when it'll all get going. So we still got a couple more weeks till we find out how this all ends up. But all right, let's talk about the Vikings for a bit, okay? So there's a report came out saying that the Vikings aren't going to be franchising Case Keenum. And today, I think a report came out that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be testing free agency, okay? With the Vikings not franchising Case Keenum, that means, obviously, that Case Keenum is free to sign wherever he wants. All right? And I thought Case Keenum did well this season. I was really waiting. Honestly, I was waiting most of the year for him to have a bad game. Turns out that bad game came in the NFC Championship. But I did become a believer before that. All right. After his game against the Saints, I thought, you know what? Case Keenum is a good quarterback, and he'd be good on the Vikings team. All right. But obviously, the Vikings, I think, have different opinions. Okay. Because I feel with Case Keenum, I think that, I don't know. I think, honestly, I'd take him over Teddy Bridgewater. There was one point where I was on the Teddy Bridgewater bandwagon as far as him or Keenum, but I don't know. There's something about Teddy Bridgewater where his value has just tanked. All right, I'm not sure what it is or how it happened, but there was one point where the Vikings were going week to week, not sure who the quarterback was going to be, or waiting for Case Keenum to play poorly, and then season ends or whatever. And I feel like Case Keenum's value went up a bit, and Teddy Bridgewater's went down big time. I mean, I'm not even sure if Teddy Bridgewater's a guy who could go and play for a team like the Bills. Not even sure if he's a guy who could play for a team like the Browns. I mean, maybe if you bring him in to play for a bit till the rookie quarterback is ready. Like, I don't know. I don't really believe in Teddy Bridgewater right now. I guess that's what point I'm trying to make right there. I just don't think Teddy Bridgewater, I don't know. It's just something about his value that just, like I said, just tanked completely, and I'd rather have Case Keenum over him. As far as Case Keenum goes, like I said, he played well this season, and it was his first real good season in the NFL, okay? Before that, really never did too much, but now, after this year, played well. So I thought, you know what? Maybe the Vikings are going to franchise him, try to work out a long-term deal, and that's going to be that, all right? Because that's what you do. If you have a guy and you want him to be your quarterback, and you don't want him to test free agency, then you franchise him and try and work out a deal, all right? And I'm sure the Vikings could have done that. But they chose not to. So now these guys can go wherever they want. And that had me thinking, all right, because no one's really been talking about it too much, right? It's been kind of like a rumor time to time. You'll hear about it. But no one's really been talking about Kirk Cousins to the Vikings, okay? And I think that that's the most logical place for him to go as of right now. All right, because you got the Broncos, you got the Jets, you got the Browns. For some reason, ESPN puts the Dolphins in that little mix. Let's see, what other teams are out there for him? The Cardinals, all right? Those 4 or 5 teams, however many I just named right now, Those teams are all teams ESPN are trying to push for right there as far as Case Keenum goes, all right? They put out a little graphic in one of their tweets talking about they crossed out the Jacksonville Jaguars, they crossed out the Redskins, and they crossed out someone else. Can't remember exactly who it was. But they didn't have the Vikings on there, and that made no sense to me, all right? I don't get why you have a team like the Dolphins on there where they'd have to cut guys like Dominic Sue, Ryan Tannehill, and a bunch of other guys in order to create cap space in order to compete with teams like the Broncos to get a guy like Kirk Cousins. All right, they'd have to do that. The Vikings make way more sense than Miami does as far as getting Kirk Cousins. And as of right now, I think the Vikings are the front runner for the guy, okay? Because, I mean, look at it this way. If you're not bringing back two of your quarterbacks that you had who could be starters for your team, you're just letting them go out to free agency and not even going to franchise them to try and work out a deal. Obviously, you have some type of backup plan or a plan that you're trying to execute. And I think that plan is Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins isn't by any means a great quarterback, right? He's not an all-time great quarterback or anything like that. He's a pretty good quarterback, okay? He's not going to go out and win you I don't know. I guess he is the type of quarterback that can go out and win you ball games, but he's not going to be throwing for 300 yards consistently or for 2 to 3 touchdowns consistently, I feel. All right, he's a safe, above average, pretty good quarterback, okay? And I think that's just what the Vikings need. The Vikings have a great defense, top 5 in the league. All right, you have great receivers. You got Adam Thielen. All you got to do is throw the ball 5 feet near him, and he'll end up with it. And Stephon Diggs, who's a really explosive receiver. And then you got Dalvin Cook, who is going to be coming off of ACL injury. You hope he comes back and plays well because, I mean, at the first 4 games of the season before he tore his ACL, I think it was the first 4 games, the dude was playing well, all right? I had him on my fantasy team, running for a bunch of yards, scoring touchdowns. He was playing extremely well, all right? So you got him coming back, and if it doesn't work out for him, then you got Latavius Murray, who played well in his absence. Jerick McKinnon also played well, but he's going to be a free agent. I'm not sure if the Vikings are going to be bringing him back, so we're going to have to wait and see about that. But as far as him going to the Vikings, I mean, that's a perfect fit right there. All right, if you go to the Broncos, as far as winning football games goes, it goes the Vikings, the Broncos, the Browns, and then the Jets, okay? Or actually the Vikings, the Broncos, the Cardinals, Browns, Jets, all right? With the Vikings, that's a Super Bowl contending team right there, okay? Definitely a Super Bowl contending team. He already made it to the NFC Championship, and Kirk Cousins is better than Case Keenum without a doubt. All right, I'm not sure what Minnesota's cap situation is looking like, but the fact that they're not bringing those 2 guys back just pretty much has me thinking that they have to be making a move for him. They have to. There's no way that you don't franchise at least Case Keenum and try and work out a long-term deal with him if you don't want Kirk Cousins, or if you do, if you don't want Kirk Cousins. There's no way. All right, there's no way you let those guys go and test free agency because, I mean, all it takes is one other team to to pay more than what you are, and they're gone. All right, and there is the possibility, I guess, this is a small possibility, but there is a possibility that that they could just be saying, you know what, we want Sam Bradford to be our quarterback, but I just do not, I don't see that happening. And if that was the case right there, then I don't know, that'd just be the ultimate crazy move if the Vikings like, you know what, we want Sam Bradford to be our guy. And it's not, like, it's crazy to think about, but if you think about it, it's like in simplistic terms, I mean, it's not as crazy. All right. Sam Bradford is a safe quarterback, but the dude can't stay healthy to save his life, so that's what makes the idea crazy right there. But like I said, going back to Kirk Cousins, that makes the team a Super Bowl contender. If Kirk Cousins goes to a team like the Denver Broncos, that makes him a playoff contender, but I don't think a Super Bowl contender. We'd have to see more how they do as the year progresses. And even with Kirk Cousins, I'm not even sure that they're better than the Chargers. All right, the Chargers have a great defense out there, top 10 defense. You got Melvin Gordon, who is near that top 5 range as far as running backs go. All right, you got Keenan Allen, who stayed healthy this year and played extremely well. You got Tyrell Williams, who's a restricted free agent, and I'm sure he's going to come back unless some other team tries to overpay for him. All right, you got Hunter Henry, who I think is a top 5 tight end in this league, and you got Phillip Rivers, who plays well, all right? I mean, the Chargers could have very well made the playoffs last year or made a run, honestly. All right, if you think about it. The Chargers were no scrub of a team. They were playing well. The only reason why they didn't get in is because the Ravens couldn't handle business and the Bills ended up winning. All right. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it ends up for Denver if they were to land a guy like Kirk Cousins. As far as the Browns go, I mean, they get Kirk Cousins. That's going to be a pretty good team there. Probably going to end up as the second best team in that division if they do the draft right. I mean, you get Kirk Cousins, maybe you trade that first pick, or you use it on Saquon Barkley and trade that 4th pick. But I think if you get Kirk Cousins, you have to get Barkley. Like, that's a must right there, okay? Defense is already pretty young, developing. But, like I said, if you get Kirk Cousins, you got to go out and get Saquon Barkley in order to give him some help on that offense. All right. As far as the Jets go, I mean, the only thing they really have to offer isn't wins. It's not great talent. It's money. That's it. That's the only thing the Jets could offer. All right. The Jets with Kirk Cousins aren't a good team. they're still a pretty bad team, all right? You still got to fix up a whole bunch of other holes on that team. You got to figure out what's going on at the wide receiver position. Robbie Anderson is probably still going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season. You still got to figure out what's going on with the whole legal matter he's got going on, all right? You need a number 2 receiver. You need a number 3 receiver, all right? Let me tell you this. Javon Curse is not the guy as your number 2 receiver. You're probably going to need a tight end unless Austin Seferian-Jenkins comes back. Might need to fix up the offensive line a bit, and you need running backs. You need running backs, plural, all right? Matt Forte isn't the guy. Bilal Powell isn't the guy. Elijah McGuire isn't the guy, okay? As far as the defense goes, defense is still extremely young, so you got to wait for them to develop, all right? The only way Kirk Cousins goes to the Jets is if they give him a fully guaranteed deal, all right? I'm sure, because with how Kirk Cousins carries himself as far as the media shows us and all that, seems like he's the type of guy that doesn't really, it's not all about the money for him, all right? He knows that he's already going to be making plenty of money as it is for whatever team he signs with. So I say, if it's like that for him, then you go and you sign with a team like the Vikings, you go and you sign with a team like the Broncos, or even like I said with the Cardinals, all right? The Cardinals, they got Larry Fitzgerald, who's played about 14, 15 seasons, hasn't taken a step back yet. You're going to be getting David Johnson back, all right? Top 2 running back in the league. You still got others, pretty solid receivers. You got John Brown, and you got Ricky Seals-Jones, an up-and-coming tight end. Offensive line played pretty well this season. And as far as the defense goes, you got the perfect mixture of veterans and young players out there, and they were playing extremely well. So, I mean, as far as it all goes, those are all the teams that have a chance at him. But like I said, I think he's going to end up with the Vikings. I just have that gut feeling there because of the fact that, I mean, you can't let those 2 quarterbacks go into free agency if you don't have a plan already to go out and try and get a guy like Kirk Cousins. It just doesn't happen that way. That's just bad business right there. So, I mean, as far as it all goes, like I said, I do think that Kirk Cousins is going to end up with the Vikings. That's my number 1 pick for him right there. If not the Vikings, then I'm sure it'll probably be the Jets or the Broncos. Like I said, if the Jets, the only way is if they offer monster amounts of money. But I mean, if the Vikings get Kirk Cousins, that puts them as the top team in the NFC too. We were talking about the Rams in the last segment. All right, I'll take the Rams still over the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, but I think you could put the Vikings right there with the Green Bay Packers as far as a team who can compete for that NFC North division. And that NFC North, let me tell you, that's going to be one of the best divisions of football if the Vikings were to land a guy like Kirk Cousins, all right? Because you got Kirk Cousins and that great team in Minnesota. You got Green Bay, where with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that's a Super Bowl contending team. You got the Detroit Lions, where I feel they've just been a solid coach away from competing in the league, all right? I think this year the Lions have a great chance of making playoffs. And you got a Bears team who, yeah, they're still young, but they made a lot of good coaching moves. And you got, I think, a quarterback in Mitch Trubisky. I think it could be a little stud for that team going forward. All you need to do is put some receivers around him and pretty much develop him a little bit more so he could succeed. You got a young defense in Chicago who are quick, scrappy, and they can get to the ball. And you really, as soon as you catch the ball, too, you're not going anywhere. All right, and you got a top 10 running back in Jordan Howard. So, I mean, the Vikings get Kirk Cousins. NFC North Division could be theirs, and I think that they're probably tied for tied as the 3rd best team in the NFC with the Green Bay Packers. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. The Vikings getting Kirk Cousins would be huge in the NFL, all right? Let me tell you. So that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about Blake Bortles getting an extension with the Jaguars. We're probably going to fit Rob Gronkowski into that segment since we did in this one. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, we talked about Marcus Peters going to the Rams, talked about how the Chiefs are a bit crazy for doing that, talked about the possibility of the Vikings getting Kirk Cousins. I'm going to call my shot right now. I'm just going to say that the Vikings are going to sign Kirk Cousins. All right, if I get that right, I'm a legend. All right, but we'll see. So for this segment, we're going to be talking about Blake Bortles, him getting an extension with the Jaguars, and Rob Gronkowski. As far as Rob Gronkowski, there's an article that came out in the New York Post about how he might actually not be coming back this season. All right, so we'll be talking about that. Talking about pretty much talking about whether or not Gronk's going to come back. Because obviously I don't know whether he is or whether he's not. But what it would mean for the Patriots if he didn't. All right, so I guess we'll be doing that. Maybe that's just something we could fit into the next segment. But either way, we'll be talking about that for the show. All right, so let's talk about Blake Bortles a bit. Okay, so Blake Bortles has played 4 years in the league so far, and Blake Bortles is not really someone who has struck us as a guy who is a great quarterback, okay? He's shown flashes. I remember it was his second or third year where, he was lighting it up, throwing touchdowns all over the place, but a lot of those came in garbage time, okay? So they were kind of empty stats, all right? But nonetheless, he showed flashes of what he could be. Then, I think it was his third or fourth year. It might have been this past year or the year before that where Blake Bortles just didn't look good at all. And, like I said, it was just pretty much Blake Bortles isn't a good quarterback. And then there was this year where Blake Bortles was playing well. All right. And they made the playoffs. But as far as the 16-game season goes, he was playing well for the most part, and then towards the last 5-6 games of the season, the dude just turned into the old Blake Bortles. It was bad. All right, I remember saying that the 49ers they broke Blake Bortles. All right, after that game, the dude just wasn't playing well at all. So there was that, and then the playoffs get here, and Blake Bortles plays well once again. All right, I've never been a real believer in Blake Bortles, all right? Always thought he had the tools, but just didn't think that he'd be able to put it all together, all right? At least for a 16-game season, all right? Even after his little playoff run that he had, I was still being pretty negative on him, saying that I still don't think he could put it all together. I don't think he could replicate that in a 16-game season, yada, 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 saying what I said, all right? And I was I've been hoping that the Jaguars were going to be bringing in a new quarterback, maybe a Kirk Cousins type, maybe even a Lamar Jackson type. And you know what? Lamar Jackson is going to be a good quarterback in this league because he's not going to go to a top bad team. He's going to go to a team that has the quarterback right now, but is probably going to need one within the next couple of years because they're going to be losing yours. If Lamar Jackson were to go to the Saints or even the Patriots or any team like that, he'd be a good quarterback, all right? It's time that we stop considering Lamar Jackson as a wide receiver. That's the laziest comparison I've seen all year, all right? Almost as lazy. No, that's the laziest. The second laziest comparison I've seen all year is people comparing Josh Allen to Carson Wentz just because they play at small schools, just because they have the same head coach, and just because they're tall, all right? Stop making lazy comparisons, okay? Comparing Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield, lazy. If anything, we need to compare Baker Mayfield with Drew Brees. And I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is going to be as good as Drew Brees or have the type of career as Drew Brees, but they're both pretty much built the same if you pay attention. All right, we're going to stop with the lazy comparisons and start doing better. But either way, getting back to Blake Bortles, like I said, the dude just hasn't put it together for a full season yet. But the Jaguars felt inclined to give him a contract extension. And at first, I was kind of wait, why on earth would you do this? My dad texted me when I was at work saying, why on earth would the Jaguars do this? What are they thinking? Stuff like that. And I was I have no clue. But I thought about it for a bit, and the extension, it does make a little sense, okay? Because, at first, on paper, yes, why would the Jaguars do this? It makes no sense. Blake Bortles just really hasn't been a good quarterback, hasn't ever put together a full season playing well, and it made no sense. But if you look at the contract, it's a 2-year extension up until 2019 or 2020, I believe. I think it's 2020. All right, it's $54 million, the total of it. I don't think it's all guaranteed or anything like that. I have to double check. Let me see if I can find his contract numbers as I'm talking about this. But I like the deal, okay? Because I'll tell you why right now. All right, this is why I like the deal. All right, you got a quarterback in Blake Bortles who, like I said, has shown flashes this past season as to what kind of quarterback he could be, all right? And giving him this 2 years gives you the opportunity to see what you got there. And, what you got there. And not only that, let's say that Blake Bortles works out well, you're not even paying him that much money, okay? Not at all. All right? But, all right, so let me get back to it, all right? Kind of lost my train of thought there. All right, so you're not paying him that much money, All right, if he plays well. If he doesn't play well, then I think they got this little thing in his contract to where they could cut him and they don't have to pay him really too much of his salary. And even with all that, he plays well or doesn't play well, you have an opportunity now. By the time his contract is up, you could pay all your other players, and even with the contract he has now, you could still pay guys like Jalen Ramsey, Yannick Ngakoue. I still don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Ngakoue or is it Ngakoue? I think it's Ngakoue, the defensive lineman on that team. All right, you can go and play all the other younger players you got on that team and still be fine. And like I said, if Blake Bortles doesn't work out, you can still lock up those younger players, but not only can you do that, you draft a quarterback in 2020, 2019, you're not going to pay him for another 4 or 5 years. All right? So I like this deal for the Jags. It makes a whole lot of sense. And as far as like if Blake Bortles plays well or not, I mean, I think I have no clue, to be honest, but I think for some reason Blake Bortles could do something. All right? He could. Blake Bortles, if you pay attention to his interviews and his little press conferences with the media, he knows what people are saying about him. Like, he knows, okay? Let's not forget, Blake Bortles is human just like the rest of us, okay? He knows when people are talking bad about him, all right? He sees that. And I think that instead of letting that get him down, he was using that in order as motivation, all right? And you saw it more in the playoffs more than anything. He was talking about it more at that time than he did ever before in his career. All right, he was letting us know, yeah, he sees it, and he's going to try and prove people wrong, and sure enough, he did. I mean, look at that game against the Steelers. The dude played great in that game. I think he only threw 1 touchdown, but he made the throws that needed to be made, okay? He did that against the Steelers. All right, against the Bills, I mean, he didn't play great or anything like that. It was against a good defense. And against the Patriots, I mean, he didn't play as well as he did against the Steelers, but he showed that he could still hang with those kind of teams, all right? And honestly, the biggest thing is it doesn't matter if we believe in Blake Bortles, all right? It doesn't matter if anyone at ESPN believes in him. It doesn't matter if anyone at NBC Sports believes in him. It doesn't matter if anyone at Fox Sports believes in him. If the team has his back and thinks Blake Bortles can be a good quarterback, that's going to go a long way for Blake Bortles, right? So Blake Bortles could very well have a good season. This could be the year where Blake Bortles finally shows up. Blake Bortles could just be one of those late bloomer type quarterbacks, all right? Could be the guy. It took a while for him to develop and all that, but you know what? Now he's finally got it all together, and he's finally got his head on straight, all right? I'm talking about head on straight as far as playing the quarterback position, okay? Because you know what? As far as like Blake Bortles goes, I mean, he's got the tools, all right? He's not like, it's not like he can't throw the football. It's not like he doesn't, he can't make the right reads or anything like that, okay? He knows how to play the position, all right? Let's see. Actually, I'm looking at his contract right now, and I don't think he can be cut in the 3 years that he's got, all right? And let's see, his cap hit in 2018 is going to be $10 million. He's got a $5 million base salary, $5 million signing bonus. He's going to be getting all next 3 years, right? He could be making $16 million. He's going to be making, or I guess near $21 million in 2019, but that's plus incentives and all that. And then 2020, $18 million, $5 million signing. All right, so about $23 million. That's all including incentives and stuff like that. The guaranteed contract is 26.5. Incentives is $12.5 million, and he's got $6.5 million guaranteed in 2019 with little offset language and stuff like that. So yeah, he's got 3 years to prove that he could be the guy for the Jaguars. All right, and like I said, these aren't like big cap hits or anything like that. I think he's earning a little bit less than Ryan Tannehill, who's earning $19.25 million. Tom Brady's earning 20. Tyrod Taylor, this is all yearly salary too. This isn't all guaranteed or anything like that. So yeah, he's earning more than Mike Glennon and Tyrod Taylor and Andy Dalton. All right. So after that, it's all quarterbacks on their rookie contracts and quarterbacks that are backup quarterbacks. So I mean, it's a pretty good contract. You're not paying him top quarterback money or anything like that. And like I said, you still got 3 years for him to prove that he's going to be the quarterback of the future. Or I mean, yeah, there has to be that. You can't draft a quarterback within the next 2 years if you're going to be paying him this much, right? And like I said, it's not like tons of money or anything like that, but nonetheless, you're still paying him a decent amount. So you got to see what he's got. But I mean, let's put it this way, okay? If the Jaguars like thought what I thought, then they wouldn't have gave him this contract. But the Jaguars are there. Jaguars are there with him day in and day out. They know what he's doing in practice. They know his study habits and all that. They know that he's trying to prepare. So obviously, if they believe in him enough to give him this contract, then maybe that makes me shift a little bit over and thinks maybe Blake Bortles could finally turn over and I said turnover. He throws a lot of interceptions. But either way, getting back on track. All right, maybe he could finally become the quarterback that I'm sure the Jaguars want him to become, okay? Because like I said, maybe it's just he's a late bloomer, right? Needed a little bit more work to fix up his little mechanics and all that. Because like I said, the dude has an arm. He can throw the ball well. People don't talk about it enough. The dude could take off with the ball and run with it, all right? That was one of the biggest things in the playoffs, all right? It wasn't that he was throwing the ball over the place. It was the fact that, you know what, he was making something out of nothing, right? You know what? I think Blake Bortles is going to be, I got to be careful. I think he might take the next step next season, all right? Because like I said, Blake Bortles, I was just thinking about it right now, all right? Blake Bortles, he wasn't throwing the ball completely well the entire time, and when it wasn't working for him, he'd take off, all right? He knows that if it's not working, then you take off. And he was helping the team that way. So maybe it's just Blake Bortles finally figured out what works for him and what doesn't. And maybe that's what the Jaguars realized too, right? So maybe they believe in him and maybe we should. But either way, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, all right? Because like I said, I mean, either way, the deal is a good one for the Jags, okay? Yeah, you're going to have to pay him for 3 years, but it's only for 3 more years. You're not paying him top quarterback money or anything like that. You pretty much just wait and see. If he turns out all right, he turns out all right. If not, I mean, you're still going to have a pretty good team. This is still a team that's going to be making playoffs year in and year out, I feel. All right, and I'm sure there's got to be added motivation losing in the AFC Championship. I mean, Blake Bortles has to think, you know what? Wow, we actually made it to the AFC Championship and went toe-to-toe with the Patriots, right? If anything, that game was more on coaching than it was on the team, all right? Doug Marrone and those coaches played the game or coached the game scared in the second half. If they didn't play to lose instead of playing to, or if they played to win instead of playing not to lose, then I'm sure they could have won that game. There was points in that game where they were up 14-3, I believe, and 20-10. So, I mean, they had opportunities. So we'll see how it all ends up for them this season. But I mean, that's all I really got to say about that. Wanted to talk about him getting his contract extension, just give my thoughts on it, and I do think it is a good move. All right, but let's finish up the segment talking about Rob Gronkowski a bit. Okay, Rob Gronkowski's been thinking about retirement, and the New York Post came out with an article talking about how it's probably closer, like this is probably the closest he's ever been to retiring than he ever has been before, right? Last year, I think he was talking about it too. Let me see if I could find that article before I get into it. I know there was a Nesson sports writer, radio host, I think, on there talking about it. Let's see real quick. Let me see if I could find it. Okay, I got the article up right here. Let me see. But yeah, as far as Rob Gronkowski retiring, I mean, that'd be terrible for the Patriots, obviously. So, yeah, let's see. NBC Sports Boston's Tom E. Curran, he got quoted saying he did enjoy himself in 2017, and he didn't have a good time despite the fact that his body was in a better situation than it's been in a long time ever, maybe, despite the fact that he's one of the most dominant players at any skill position. Is starting to wear on him physically, mentally, the atmosphere in New England, all right? So, I mean, this all goes back because I guess he was trying to work with Tom Brady's little fitness guru guy, Alex Guerrero, and everything that's gone wrong with the Patriots, I feel, besides the whole Malcolm Butler thing, is tied back to this whole Patriots culture, all right? We've been taught the Patriot way, all that. That's the way to go and stuff, but I mean, I feel now it's starting to wear on people, and it's starting to get a bit annoying, okay? Because, like, you got Lane Johnson, Lane Johnson was talking about how they're a fear-based organization, but that's probably not the best example to use. You got Chris Long, okay? Chris Long on an interview one time said that the difference with playing with Philly and New England is, yeah, you learn a lot with New England, but it's not as fun as far as playing the game of football, all right? You're out there, it's pretty much, they treat it, like I said, like it's just like a job, okay? You go out there, 9-to-5 type job, you're not there to have fun or anything, you're there to work. Whereas these other teams, they realize, yeah, we're just playing football, we're playing a children's game, yeah, we're here to work, but, I mean, it could be fun too. And I think that just might be starting to weigh on players, okay? Because, like I said, Rob Gronkowski, I'm not sure if he was really injured too much this season, I can't remember off the top of my head or whatever, but, I mean, the last 2 years, I think he's been pretty healthy. Actually, last year was he? No, last year he was out of the playoffs, I forgot, but this year he was pretty healthy, okay? And the fact that, I mean, I think he did get a concussion. Yeah, he got a concussion this year too, so maybe that's wearing on him also. But either way, I feel like this whole Patriot way thing is starting to get on the players' nerves, starting to wear on them a bit, all right? Players are starting to realize, you know what, it's not worth it to just be barked at the entire time and to pretty much just go about the day, just pretty much not having fun with the game or anything like that. And like I said, Rob Gronkowski is a guy who's out there, yeah, he's there to play football. He's a guy who has a good personality, trying to have fun. So maybe it's just the whole Patriot way thing is wearing on the Patriots players. And if the Patriots lose Rob Gronkowski, that's going to be a big problem for Tom Brady, all right? They're going to have to pay Danny Amendola if they lose Rob Gronkowski because obviously Rob Gronkowski isn't that prototypical tight end. He can line down in the slot and all that, and that's where Danny Amendola fits in, where Rob Gronkowski's not there in the slot. So you're going to have to bring back Amendola if Rob Gronkowski doesn't want to come back, and that's still going to be a big weapon that's missed for New England, all right? Because you can go out, you can cover a Julian Edelman, you can cover a Danny Amendola, you can cover a Brandon Cooks, but you can't cover a Rob Gronkowski. So if he's not there, that makes it a whole lot easier to game plan on defense. So that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of football, anything that catches my mind. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, what have we talked about? Let's see. We talked about Marcus Peters going to the Rams. We talked about Kirk Cousins, me calling my shot with him going to the Vikings. And then for the third segment, talked about Blake Bortles and talked about Rob Gronkowski a bit. For this segment, we're going to talk about pretty much whatever else is going on in the NFL. All right, so let's get into it. So I guess the rules committee starting to think about, I guess, different rules, whatever, trying to fix some rules for this season. All right, they've talked about changing the pass interference rule. Instead of it being wherever the pass interference happens, that's where the ball is marked down. It'd just be a 15-yard penalty, just like how it is in college. All right, I don't like that. I kind of like how the pass interference rule is right now, all right? Because, I don't know, in college they do the whole 15 yards either way type of thing. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, why do I like how the rule is right now? I say I like it because, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I like it. I just prefer it over. I guess, let me see if I can put this into words, all right? Let's see. So, I mean, let's say the quarterback throws it down the field, and the guy has an opportunity to catch it, but the cornerback takes him out of position, or linebacker, or whoever is covering whatever player's down the field to try and catch the ball, and like I said, breaks it up. I mean, you shouldn't be rewarded for that, all right? Because that's what it is. If a guy gets burnt, all he's going to do is just take the penalty, and boom, that's just 15 yards instead of how it would have been, all right? I think it's fine the way it is, and that's just one rule they don't need to change right there, okay? Because like I said, like it's just going to give cornerbacks the incentive. If they get burned, then tackle the guy down and just take the 15-yard loss, all right, instead of the 30, 25, or 40-yard loss, or however many yards it may be, all right? So I say don't do that, because it's just going to give cornerbacks bad cornerbacks an incentive to play even poorly by committing penalties since they already got burned. So I say leave it the way it is. There's no reason to change it, all right? And like I said, just don't mess with the league too much. But there is a rule they're trying to fix, and that's the catch rule, all right? Trying to make it catch, 2 steps, move forward, and that's catch if you're going down with it or whatever, all right? That's how it should have been the entire time. This whole catch rule is it's dumb, all right? It shouldn't be as bad as it is now, okay? You got the rules committee coming out and saying that Des Bryant's catch in 2014, you know which catch I'm talking about, the one against the Packers, should have been a catch. Yeah, we all know that, all right? We all know that should have been a catch. There's no doubt about it, okay? That catch against the Green Bay Packers, or that incomplete pass, I guess you could say, that was definitely a catch. He caught it, took 2 steps forward, reached out with the ball. It's not like he dropped the ball going down. He reached out. He made a football move, reached out for the pylon, and that's how it came out. If anything, that's just out of bounds, Cowboys ball or whatever, unless it bounced out in the back of the end zone and was a touchback, all right? There's no reason, or it didn't even bounce out of bounds. I forgot he had his hands on it still. So yeah, this should have been a catch without a doubt, all right? I'm not sure why we even got to this point. I'm not even sure it's just because the NFL referees are trying to make themselves part of the game and trying to make everything a whole lot harder than it needs to be. All right, because I'll tell you this much. NFL refs and NBA refs, I got to be nice on the podcast and stuff like that, but let's just say that they aren't the best at doing their job, I feel, okay? They're not. NBA refs will call whatever they want, whenever they want, and there's no consistency with that. And as far as NFL refs go, there's no consistency with what they call either, all right? They'll call holding on every other play if they want, okay? The whole holding, on defensive holding, that's one rule I don't like at all because it's kind of like a nitpick type of penalty. Pass interference, I think it's fine the way it is. It doesn't need to be changed or anything like that. So there's just a whole bunch of rules that, not a whole bunch of rules, but there's rules that you don't need to mess around with, and there's rules that, it's about time they're getting fixed. So, that's all I got to say about that. Let's see what else is going on in the NFL right now. Jerry Jones, Roger Goodell tried finding Jerry Jones a couple $1 million because of Jerry Jones was acting out for the league, and Jerry Jones is now going to appeal it. And, Roger Goodell has been a headache for the last few years, I could say. All right? He's been a real, true headache. And I don't know, man. Like, the owners gave him a contract extension. Jerry Jones was trying to fight that. And, we got to somehow make this league, bring it into the hands of the players, okay? That's where the NFL is such drama all the time. Okay, the NBA is thriving right now because of the fact that they put the power in the players' hands, all right? The players get guaranteed contracts. The players can do and say whatever they want, okay? Well, obviously to an extent, if you get what I mean, but the players can pretty much express themselves. The players can tweet out whatever they want, can pretty much act themselves, okay? And that doesn't have to do with protests or anything like that, all right? I'm just saying the players can be who they are, just be themselves. In the NFL, you can't do that. You got the owners wanting you to be a certain way and act a certain way and not act out and all that stuff. And again, this has nothing to do with the protests, so please don't make it about that. But, the players in the NFL, they're pretty much like robots, all right? You can't be yourself. You got a guy like Marcus Peters, who I'm sure got traded just because he was being himself. I'm not sure how much of a locker room distraction he was. You don't have any players coming out to say that he was a distraction. All you have is the reports coming from, obviously, reporters saying that he was a distraction. I'm sure that's coming straight from the team in order to help justify why they traded the guy. The dude had no off-the-field problems. So, it's just really frustrating to see how the NFL is right now, all right? Like I said, the power has to come to the players. They got to figure out a way to get those guaranteed contracts and figure out a way. The owners are just owners. They try to make themselves out there too much, right? You got guys like Jerry Jones is probably one of the few owners in the league that actually knows anything about football, all right? Jim Irsay tries to be that guy, but the dude is just, I got to be nice. Let's just say Jim Irsay has no clue what he's doing as far as football goes, okay? The dude is a wannabe Jerry Jones, okay? Does everything to try and be like Jerry Jones, tries to run his team like Jerry Jones, tries to have a hand in everything like Jerry Jones, and just messes everything up, all right? I'll never forget when he said that Andrew Luck's shoulder injury was in his head and all that. You're really going to say that about your franchise quarterback, all right? The dude just makes no sense whatsoever, all right? But either way, like I said, I can't stand the owners of the NFL always trying to feel like they're big people in the league, all right? The league isn't about them. It's about the players, all right? It's not about the fans. It's not about the owners. It's not about the coaches. It's always been about the players, all right? So, I don't know. The NFL, the NCAA really frustrate me. The NCAA more so, but that's a conversation you can hear about on the GSMC basketball or sports podcast, all right? So that's all I got to say about that. Let's see what else is going on. Let's talk about, what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about Josh Rosen, all right? I've been seeing that he's been sliding on a lot of mock drafts, and I don't like that. All right, Josh Rosen is without a doubt to me the best quarterback in this draft, the most NFL ready quarterback. I think he's more NFL ready than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold probably has more. He's like the more prototypical quarterback. Sam Darnold's got a lot of raw talent that you need to develop. Josh Allen, people have been talking about him like he's a project. Lamar Jackson, people are trying to say he's a wide receiver, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. All right, obviously, if you think Lamar Jackson should become a wide receiver, you've never watched him in college. All right, it's one thing to watch every game and for some reason think, yeah, I guess he should be a wide receiver. But if you think that he is a guy who needs to be a wide receiver in college, like just right off the bat, then you have not watched one game about him. Okay. The dude can play quarterback in the league. Does he need to develop in the league? Yeah, probably. So does every other quarterback that's ever came in, okay? There's been very few quarterbacks that have ever came into the league that have been ready to go from the start, all right? Guys like Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady wasn't even ready to go from the start. Let's see, who else? Aaron Rodgers developed for 5 years, okay? Like I said, there's just very few quarterbacks that have been ready to go from the jump, all right? Lamar Jackson, yeah, needs to develop. That's not news to anyone, okay? But people saying that he's not a quarterback in the NFL, needs to go turn into a receiver from the start, just make no sense to me. Bill Polian, Maybe he's just an old guy or whatever and just says whatever. All right, but that's such a lazy take right there. All right, but as far as Josh Rosen goes, I'm not sure why he's really sliding. I know there's this whole thing about his attitude and stuff like that, but that's just one thing right there. All right, that ties into what I was just saying about the owners not wanting their players to speak their minds and be themselves. That's why Josh Rosen is sliding down mock drafts, because the owners don't like a player with a mind of his own. They don't. All right, they want you to fall in line and just play football. But that's one thing they got to get away from, all right? They don't want you to have a mind of your own, don't want you to speak your mind. They just want you to go out, practice, and make them money. That's all it's ever been, and that's why Josh Rosen is falling, all right? I mean, I'm fine with Josh Rosen falling down the mock drafts and falling down in the actual draft if that happens, because of the fact that the more he falls, the better a team is going to go to, all right? So, I mean, that's all I really got to say about that. The fact that Josh Rosen, people are having him so low, just makes no sense to me. It's just kind of idiotic just to see that just because the guy speaks his mind, he's going down in draft boards and all of that. So, that's all I got to say about that. That's going to wrap up today's show. Today we talked about Marcus Peters going to the Browns, talked about the Vikings. I called my shot saying that Vikings are going to sign Kirk Cousins, talked about Blake Bortles getting his contract extension, talking about Gronk possibly retiring, and then for this segment, talked about a whole bunch of things, talked about different rules, talked about the owners, and talked about a little bit of the quarterbacks in the draft. So, like I said, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back on Thursday, so stay tuned till then, and we will talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.